The protests at the Singhu border are not going anywhere. The protesters are not going anywhere. They came with a lot of preparation, they came with a lot of supplies, and they seem to be here to stay. What do they want? They want the complete repealing of the laws, no questions asked. They do not want a clause by clause discussion. They do not even want to point out the problems they have with the laws. All they want is a complete repeal of the laws, no questions asked. Now, to some, this might come across as political blackmail, which it is. We've discussed in a lot of videos. But the government yesterday made a very interesting suggestion. It was the 10th round of talks between the government and the protesting farm unions. And the government came up with this very interesting suggestion where they said that they are ready to suspend the laws for 18 to 24 months and then have the farm unions wrap up the protest at Singhu border and then have a consultation, an elaborate consultation over the cooling off period, which is 18 to 24 months, and then have the laws implemented. Now, to some, this might come across as a very ridiculous suggestion because by doing this, the government is actually encouraging anarchy. It is encouraging blockades of highways. It is encouraging economic blockades as it is being seen in the region of Singhu border. And to some, this is a political move because BJP, even though it's walking on very thin ice, if I talk about the protests at the Singhu border, it is walking on very, very thin ice here, mind you. But it has also cornered the farmers of Punjab. And how it has done that is what we're going to discuss today. Now, the government's proposal comes in the wake of two huge developments. One was the stay of the Supreme Court. We discussed the stay of the Supreme Court. We discussed why the Supreme Court should have listened to the government more. Nevertheless, the Supreme Court said that they are staying the implementation of the laws and they mandated a 4-member committee who would look into the ground situation, understand the grievances of the farm unions. So the Supreme Court had already stayed the implementation of the farm laws. The second thing was the tractor rally the protesters at Singhu border have been threatening for long. Now, already the Supreme Court made it very clear to the government when the government approached the Apex Court to request an injunction order against the tractor rally. The Supreme Court said that this is your problem, this is your jurisdiction. We won't tell the Delhi police what to do. Now, the Delhi police has been in touch with the protesting farmers at Singhu, talking about the routes, talking about what shape this rally may take. But it's happening on 26th January, and that is a very high security day in the national capital. It's one of the most secure days, perhaps, in the national capital. And the protesters at Singhu wanted to take out a tractor rally, perhaps on the outer ring road. They did not want to interfere with the events at Rajpath. They wanted to take out a tractor rally at the outer ring road in Delhi, perhaps to make a statement. The most ironical thing out of this entire episode was that the farmers were conveying to the government that, hey, look, we are not interfering into the events at Rajpath. We're just going to take a small rally around the outer ring road in Delhi, and that will be it. The entire communication was being made to sound like a favor done to the government. Now, are we talking about politics here where it's actually a favor not to disrupt a huge security event? Is it some kind of the favor that the protesters at Singhu border are doing? They are not. But nevertheless, these were the two major developments in the wake of which yesterday's proposal was made. Now, there are going to be consequences for the government. The government has made this suggestion, but it cannot escape the consequences of it because this is really, really bad optics. It is very bad optics, to put it in a very understated manner. For one, the farmers across India, it's not just about Punjab. The entire farmers of India are not concentrated in Punjab. And meanwhile, while the Punjabis may like to think that no farmers and no food, that's surely not how the world works. That's surely not even how the country works. But nevertheless, what are the farmers across India going to take away from this proposal made by the government? That are Punjab farmers more equal than the farmers across India? Even though farmers across India in different states have voiced their support for the new farm laws, and even though the farmers across India, marginal landholders, small landholders who are struggling to make an income out of their agricultural lands, have supported the new farm laws, seeing the government take a stance like this would be really disappointing. It would again validate the notion that the farmers of Punjab are unduly supported by the central government. That's going to be the first consequence. The second one is the legitimization of the Shaheen Bagh model. Now, a month and a half ago, we had discussed that was Singhu becoming another Shaheen Bagh. Unfortunately, turns out to be true. And by making this proposal, even if it's 18 to 24 months, is the government legitimizing the Shaheen Bagh model? Is the entire idea of gathering 1,000 odd people, sitting on a protest on some highway, getting some people from the minority, getting some people from some specific groups sitting on a highway, causing a blockade, a new way to threaten the government on a certain policy? And if it is so, where does it stop? Will it be implemented for the policies issued earlier by the government, for the laws made earlier by the government, say CAA? Will we see another Shaheen Bagh happening? Will the entire policy making be concentrated around the committees formed by the Supreme Court? Will it be all boiling down to what Yogendra Yadav wants? These are some of the questions that people now have, that have we, or has the government rather, unknowingly legitimized the Shaheen Bagh problem, the Shaheen Bagh model of policy paralysis. And the third consequence is what it means for the future of policy making in India. Now, the farm laws, they had a lot to do with economic policy making, and each time there is economic policy making, there will be some economic redistribution, there will be some changes. When the economy was opened up in 1991, I'm sure there were people who benefited a lot, but there were people who also lost out because of the status quo being demolished for good. And this is always going to happen. It's just not about farmers. Tomorrow you make different economic policies for the betterment of the nation. Somewhere will lose out. There will be economic redistribution. But what does it mean for the future of policy making in India is the bigger question. Because at the end, these are just few farmers from a small state of Punjab. They're not from Uttar Pradesh, they're not from Rajasthan, not from Madhya Pradesh. The majority farmers are coming from Punjab. And can they hijack the interest of all farmers in India? After all, 600 million people in India, almost twice the population of United States, directly or indirectly depend on agriculture. So can the interests of 600 million people in India be hijacked, let's say by 6,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000? Can they be hijacked like that? These are some of the questions the government will have to answer. But even though the communication for the government will be a challenge, even to its 25 crore supporters and voters, to investors, to stakeholders, to analysts, to observers, to media, it will be a challenge for the BJP. However, this political move is also going to be a headache for the farmers. Now, how is that going to work out? Number one, how does the farm union groups deny this proposal of the government? Now, for long, the farm unions have complained that the MSP will go away. The farm laws have nothing about the MSP. Before the Apex Court, they argued that the lands would be taken away by the corporates. The contract farming has nothing to do with the lands. The deal would be of the crops and the corporates, nothing to do with the lands. The third claim they have made, the farm unions have made, is that they were not consulted enough before the laws were framed. Fair enough, maybe. Let's assume they were not consulted. How can they not deny an 18 to 24 month of cooling off period to further discuss the laws clause by clause? The government has been asking them to take up the laws clause by clause. They have refused. The government has been asking them to point out the grievances in the laws as they are. They have refused. So how will the farmers come out of this proposal looking smart, looking like a very credible group? Because they do not have any serious grievance against the laws. The grievances they have is against MSP or going away, which is not going away. The procurement has in fact been higher this year. If I talk about the MSP procurement for paddy, it has been higher this year from Punjab. So what are the farmers going to stay? This is one way that the government can really expose the hypocrisy. Number two, it also buys time for the government. Now, the government, before the Apex Court, it said that the banned organizations had infiltrated the protest. On asking by the Supreme Court, the government had said that they will present the findings of IB. Now, the government thinks that the protests have been infiltrated. So seriously, the government may have some intel which says that the law and order situation could develop around Singhu border. So probably they want to buy some time to nab the troublemakers. And these troublemakers would not want the farmers to agree on this cool-off period. The troublemakers would want that the protest should go on and on unless the entire law is repealed. Now, here's the problem. If the farmers deny the proposal, Who is going to fund them for so long? Because at some point, the farmers need to go back to their fields in Punjab, start cultivating. But even if they agree to stay here, even if they keep their women, their children, their elders over here, who is funding them? And it's going to come out in the open sooner or later. Now, this becomes a problem for the farm unions because they wanted some credibility to their protest. So either they voice their genuine concerns, which they have none, either they will end up exposing their own source of funding and the troublemakers which have infiltrated these protests. And the government will also look to buy out some time to nab the troublemakers as it should. Now, it's also about the disproportionate MSP allocation. Now, if Punjab's farmers are really hell-bent on having the laws repealed, it's time the government should also make an offer the farmers of Punjab cannot refuse. For long, there has been a special MSP treatment for Punjab. Why? Because wheat and paddy has been grown. The Green Revolution of the 1960s, it encouraged a lot of growth, a lot of crops. We had a food security problem, but that was 6 decades ago. The world 6 decades ago was very different. The India 6 decades ago was very, very different. This is 2020. Currently, the government is procuring more wheat and paddy than it actually needs just to keep the farmers going. Fair enough. They want to support the agricultural sector in India. They must. Even if it means overflowing FCI godowns, it even means a dent on the taxpayers' money, on how the taxpayer money is being spent. Let it be. For the sake of the argument, let's assume it's right. But what if the government tells the farmers of Punjab that no longer will the MSP procurement be disproportionate? What if the MSP procurement is tied to a state benchmark? What happens to Punjab then if we compare it with Madhya Pradesh? What happens to Punjab then if we compare it to West Bengal? What happens to Punjab then if we compare it to Uttar Pradesh? What happens to Punjab if we compare it to Maharashtra? What if the government says either take the laws or have proportional MSP procurement? What happens to the agri economy of Punjab then, which is only dependent on the MSP procurement of wheat and paddy in the state? This is how the government should use the 18 to 24 months of buffer they're offering. If they cannot correct the problem of MSP procurement, the disproportionate MSP procurement there is, the 18 months would be wasted. The fourth problem is the political one. Now, the situation at Singhu border is politically volatile. If the government is saying banned organizations have infiltrated the protests, they are anticipating a law and order situation. And in India, the law and order situation eventually amounts to a political problem. Now, the government wouldn't want a political problem at this hour with another minority group. It doesn't matter who has infiltrated the protest. It doesn't matter who is right, who is wrong. A law and order situation will not end well for the central government. Congress, for more than 3 decades, has not been able to shake off the trauma of the Blue Star years. It has not been able to overcome that. BJP would not want to make the same mistake. And if they are trying to avoid a serious law and order situation on the ground in the short run, it makes sense to take a step back. Politically, it makes sense. It may not come across as good, but having to choose between a law and order situation and bad optics, any political party running the government would go for bad optics than a law and order situation. Because even with the law and order situation, you get far worse optics. So probably that was the lesser evils the BJP made the choice of. The SC, now coming to the next point, the Supreme Court has already stayed the implementation of the laws. The committee will happen 2 months later, it will present its report. The committee will discuss the issues again. Things will move slowly at their own pace. 6 to 8 months, easily it will take before Supreme Court comes out with a judgment of its own. So while this is going to take some time, why should the government risk a law and order situation fueled by anarchists on the border of Delhi? Why should they? They might as well think that instead of 8 months, take 18 months. Let's find a permanent solution to the problem. Let's find the troublemakers. Let's find the money trail. And even then, the SC has anyway stayed the implementation of the law. So the BJP has nothing to gain anymore by just talking to the farmers. The SC has now intervened. By doing this, by making this proposal, the government has actually aligned itself with the Supreme Court and has further isolated the farmers. Now, if the farmers go back and say that we do not want this buffer period of 18 months, we want the complete repealing of the laws, they will actually have the judiciary also disagreeing with them. So the government has isolated the farmers while aligning itself with the judiciary, which is a very smart move. Now, the other thing is what happens next year in Punjab. There is little doubt if one goes north of Singhu across the GT road to Punjab, the protests have been encouraged by the state government, the Congress government of Amrinder Singh. Now, what happens in 2022? Amrinder Singh earlier had hinted at retirement, but that is something every politician in their late 70s in India do. No one likes to leave the seat of power. Amrinder Singh would want to contest the elections again. But here's the problem for Captain Amrinder Singh. He's not fulfilled any of his promises from 2017 manifesto. The industry is still not there in Punjab. The jobs are still not there in Punjab. The pandemic has further worsened the situation. Crop diversification has not happened. The agri economy is not growing. So Punjab is still stagnant. If I talk about the IT sector in Punjab, the services sector, just nearby from where I live, the IT sector has also been stagnant in Punjab for the last 5 years. So the captain will have serious troubles up his sleeve when he goes asking for votes once again. However, with the claim of this 18-month buffer period, what can the Akalis do? They can perhaps strike a post-poll alliance with the long-term ally BJP. They can go back to the drawing table. They can go back to the negotiating board and chalk out another alliance with the BJP and Shiromani Akali Dal. They both can technically come out with an alliance of their own, counter the Congress, and that might change the political landscape of Punjab completely because Akalis are very close to the farmers. But for that, BJP will have to work overtime to shift the Hindu voters from Congress to the BJP. The Hindu voters since long have not preferred voting for the BJP because one, they do not agree with the Akali alliance the BJP had. And second, there was the AAP factor also, but AAP has become a laughing stock. In fact, in 2019, BJP had more vote share, gaining on 3 of the 13 seats, contesting on 3 of the 13 seats, than AAP had contesting on all 13 seats in the state. So AAP won't be a big factor, but BJP really needs to start working overtime in a state where they have no ground network at all. So the political landscape might also change, and BJP is willing to bet on that as they indicated by this proposal. And lastly, the BJP needs to go ahead. It needs to implement these laws in other states. Start with Bihar, start with Karnataka, start with Madhya Pradesh, start with Uttar Pradesh. Perhaps you could also try it in Haryana. Who knows, Maharashtra and West Bengal too very soon. The BJP needs to go all guns blazing with the laws, with the agri reforms in these states. Eventually work with some other state governments also to implement these laws. And at the end, the farmers of Punjab are going to lose out. Why? Because there is appetite for private sector in agriculture in other states, but Punjab farmers, by their own stubbornness, by their own closed-mindedness, they have rejected the private sector investment for the long term, which was very, very essential for the growth of the economy in the state. They could have created jobs, they could have created storage spaces. The potential is endless. The point is, the farmers of Punjab, be it the middlemen, be it the band organizations, be it the infiltrators, be it the farmers themselves, they have discouraged private investment for the state for a very, very long time now, and they are going to pay for it. Because however this protest ends, Punjab's farmers must remember that they do not have the groundwater to grow rice, to grow paddy and wheat forever. The groundwater levels are declining. Already a lot of farmers are struggling to grow paddy. The next in contention will be wheat, and 10 years later, when Punjab will have the most exploited groundwater levels in the entire country as it does now, the farmers of Punjab would want the private sector to turn to them, and by then other states would have marched ahead and Punjab farmers would end up being losers. Now, that is all politics now. The farm laws were always about politics. They're still about politics, and BJP wants to play to the political gallery now. But what happens if the farmers disagree to this proposal, which is a very realistic chance? They are just stuck on no repeal of laws, no ghar wapsi. So what happens if the farmers actually do not agree? Well, for one, the situation will get very, very complicated at Singhu. It will get very, very complicated on 26 January. And the government may have enough justification for a crackdown, but it would have to be done very smartly. They cannot have a law and order situation. They cannot afford violence of any kind. And that is where the situation becomes very, very complicated at Singhu border. It also becomes very, very complicated for the BJP. The troublemakers who have infiltrated at the Singhu border, if we are to go by what the government says, they do not want the carrot. What they want is the stick. This is a battle of perception now. The side at Singhu, they want to play the victims when they are not. They are the most pampered lot by the centre's MSP grant. But they want to play the victims. They want to show that the central government is somehow the villain here. And this is a battle of perceptions now. But if the farmers reject this proposal of the government, even though the proposal is dangerous for the BJP, it puts them in a tight spot too. If the farmers lose this last face-saving opportunity, they're going to hurt their short and long-term interests both, and at the same time justify a political crackdown at the entire Singhu border site. Now, if I put it in a chess analogy, the BJP's move, it has checked the farmers at Singhu border. But the question is, can the Modi regime go for the checkmate move against these farmers in the 18 months period it is suggesting? It's for us to wait and watch and see. Thank you.